Okay, so good morning, class, and welcome to the session. Okay, so how many people have joined? Let me see, including me, 13. Let's wait for 2 minutes. And in the meantime, those who want to show me their confusion matrix, their approach, what they have done in the data set which I've shared, feel free, guys. And then we'll start the session. Okay, so today we'll focus on one thing, that is our hyperparameter cube. We'll see. We'll start with this thing in next 5 minutes. Rather next 2 minutes. Guys, please go on mute. Shraddha Patil, go on mute, please.
ह्याच्या ऑडिओचा काय प्रॉब्लेम झालाय काय
Shraddha, go on mute, please. Thank you. हाँ, कौन कोई दिखाना चाह रहा है अपना कोड अप्रोच? No one. वो पता है मेरे को, करा क्या तुमने वो बताओ. एक मॉडल बनाओ बाकी सब कंट्री तो फालतू है सिर्फ एक मॉडल बनाओ शुरू में एक फिल्टर डाल दो यूएसए का फाइल रीड करते बराबर कंट्री पे यूएसए का एक फिल्टर डाल ओके, और ट्राई करो, देखो कहाँ पे क्या बेटर आता है। हम्म, लीनियर रिग्रेशन, सपोज करो तुमने पहला मॉडल बिल्ड किया एंड देन यू फाइंड आउट व्हिच फीचर्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट, ठीक है, उसके बाद नेक्स्ट मॉडल बिल्ड करो जिसमें से कुछ फीचर्स हटा दो एंड देन यू कंपेयर, ओके। Guys, can we start? Okay, chalo, let's get started. Hyperparameter tuning. Okay. So expect few questions from hyperparameter tuning, and in whenever you are building a model, probably this thing would be very much useful to you. Okay. So first of all, I think I have talked a little bit on hyperparameter tuning when I was discussing the decision tree, I remember, right? But let's discuss it once more, and then we will see how to do the same thing in our Jupyter notebook, how to implement the same thing in our coding. So before we go for tuning, let's talk about what are hyperparameters, or what do you mean by hyperparameter? Can I have a quick answer, please? They are shown in क्या फिर से बोलो? मतलब नहीं, गलत दिखता है, बिल्कुल दिखता है, क्यों नहीं दिखता है? Yes, so hyperparameters are not part of original data, are not part of, or hyperparameters are the parameters which are not part of original data, but user can control it. User can control it, which means user can change it. And examples क्या दोगे? So for example, the choice of kernel in SVM, okay? Criteria in your decision tree or in random forest, decision tree or in random forest. Remember, criteria can be either Gini or it can be entropy. Any other example of hyperparameters? पता है already है? Okay, yes. So value of k in KNN. How many neighbors do you want in your KNN? Any other example? So this was a good example. अरे already पता है तुम लोग को. Depth of the tree. तो जोर से बोलो ना. Depth of the tree in decision. Depth of the tree. Depth of the tree in decision tree also, and in random forest also. Minimum sample split. Minimum sample split. Any other example of hyperparameter? Random forest से connect करता हुआ एक example बताओ. Number of trees in your random forest. याद आता है? Remember? हमने control किया हुआ है. Number of trees or number of decision trees in your random forest. Guys, please कुछ examples हमेशा याद रखना है. Data science is a field of science, and in science, the best way to understand is your example. So always quote some examples. So kernel is in your SVM, criteria and decision tree or random forest, value of k in KNN, and depth of the tree in decision tree or random forest, minimum sample split, number of trees in random forest. All these are examples of your hyperparameters. Okay. When you go in neural networks, number of hyperparameters can be in thousands also, and combinations can be in several thousand or in millions also, right? वहां पे एक अलग challenge आएगा. No. So this is the examples of your hyperparameters. Now comes the tuning part. Okay. Will people agree? Do you agree with this thing that hyperparameters play some role in model performance? इससे agree करते हो तुम लोग? And the best way to remember is when we were building our SVM and we changed the kernel, the model used to change. Linear kernel, polynomial kernel, RBF kernel, and all those kernels. And another thing is we have already done when I used to change the depth of the tree in decision tree, then also the model performance used to change. अगर तुम लोग ने last week try किया होगा, तुम लोग ने देखा होगा when you are changing your criteria from Gini to entropy, then also model is changing. So which means hyperparameters have some role in model performance. And if hyperparameters have some role in model performance, then we need to find best set of hyperparameters. Yes or no? We need to find best set of hyperparameters because hyperparameters are impacting your model performance. So which set of hyperparameters are best or they give me the best result? I need to find them. Okay. So if this is the question, agar ye question hum le le, which set of hyperparameters will give you the best model? Answer to this question is very simple. It is your hyperparameter tuning. Hyperparameter tuning. जैसे रेडियो को ट्यून करते हो to get the best frequency, similarly I will tune my model to get the best set or best combinations of my hyperparameters. Okay, hyperparameters tuning. So hyperparameters play some role in your model performance. So I need to get the best. So which can be the best set of hyperparameters? To find the best set, the answer is hyperparameter tuning. Ab hyperparameter tuning, either you can do it manually. तुम इसे manually भी कर सकते हो और through some functions, through some inbuilt functions. Through some inbuilt functions. So manually क्यों करना जब inbuilt functions है? Or if you want to do manually, that is also your choice, no problem. Now let's take an example. In decision tree, criteria can be in hyperparameter, so criteria can take two values, either Gini or entropy. Correct? Then let me say depth of the tree. Okay, depth of the tree. So depth of the tree, let me say you are starting with depth as 5 or 6 or 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you are saying minimum sample split. What is minimum sample split in decision tree? Yeah. What is minimum sample split? सुना है मेरे मुझसे कभी? सुना है लेकिन भूल गए. अच्छा चलो कोई बात नहीं. सर्दी की ये है, बरसात की दिन है, तुम्हारे दिमाग पे ज्यादा लोड नहीं डालते हैं. फिर से एक बार डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. व्हाट इज मिनिमम सैंपल स्प्लिट? देखते हैं एंड ट्राई रिमेम्बरिंग इट गाइस. ये एक कुछ क्वेश्चंस में से पूछा जा सकता है तुम्हारे इंटरव्यूज में. मिनिमम सैंपल स्प्लिट, minimum sample split in decision tree. Okay, so I am saying this is a hyperparameter. It is an example of hyperparameter which user can control. Suppose you have given minimum sample split as 75. Suppose कर लो तुमने 75 दे दिया. Now what does this meaning of this 75 is? Let me take an example. Let me say at the starting you had 1000 records. ठीक है? Suppose करो you are building the model on your loan status. So at the starting you have 1000 records. So you are saying, let me say credit history equal to 1. Remember tree formation? So if this condition is true, let me say there are some 700 people which satisfy this condition, 300 people who do not satisfy this condition, false. Out of these 700 people, you check their income. And you are saying if income is greater than $4,000, then out of these 700, now the splitting would be based upon these 700 only. Out of these 700, let me say 500 satisfy this condition and 200 do not satisfy this condition. Then you are saying education equal to graduate. Out of these 500, let me say 450 satisfy this condition and 50 do not satisfy this condition. I'm just taking an example. Now, this 50, do you notice, guys? This number 50 is less than what you have given. ये 50 से less हो जाता है. So whether it is 50 or whether it is 69 or whether it is 74, it would still be less than 75. So now what will happen? This branch will stop to grow. ये यहाँ पे रुक जाएगी. Because you are saying minimum sample split is 75. So splitting will take only if there are 75 or more records. So this portion can continue to split. So now you are saying, let me say co-applicant income. Co-applicant income is greater than 3,000. So out of these 450, let me say there were somewhere around 300 and 150. And then you are checking, you may check some condition here also. You may check some condition here also. So you say, let me say property area equal to ruler. Out of 150, let me say there were 100 over here, or let me not say 100. Let me say 90 were over here and 60 were over here. So again, this thing will stop. This 90 can continue to still split. Okay. So this is known as your, it is an example of minimum sample split. Take 2 minutes and please try to draw this diagram so that you can reference it later. आज तुम लोग को दो चीजें और बताऊंगा. तुम लोग अक्सर एक वर्ड यूज करते हो ना, बायस्ड. आज तुम्हें पता चलेगा बायस होता क्या है और ये ओवरफिटिंग क्या होता है. तुम्हें पता चलेगा कि मॉडल ही नहीं, जिंदगी भी ओवरफिट कर जाती है कभी, जैसा मेरी कर गई. Done, guys. अरे हाँ ना, कुछ तो बोलो। डन। ओके ठीक है, नाउ लेट्स डू वन थिंग. Okay, so let's come back over here. So I'm saying, let me say while building your decision tree, you are trying to control three hyperparameters. I'll write this line. While building the decision tree, you are trying to control three hyperparameters. And those three hyperparameters are criteria, depth of the tree, and minimum sample split. Okay. Now, acha, keep one thing in mind, guys. सब लोग please वापस यहाँ पे देखो. Suppose करो, let me say you are building the model where the total records were 1000. ठीक है? And तुमने बोल दिया minimum sample split. Minimum sample split is equal to 400. Let me say minimum sample split equal to 400. ठीक है? So at the starting you would be having 1000 records. So let me say some 700 records come over here and some 300 records come over here. Now this tree will stop to grow, this branch. This 700 can still just keep on growing. Out of these 700, let me say 450 out of these 700, some 450 come this side and 250 come this side. Now this will, minimum sample split is 400, so this will stop to grow. This 450 can still split. Let me say out this 450 is split into two parts. Your, let me say 300 and 150. Now this tree will entirely stop. Do you notice that minimum sample split can control the depth of your tree? Suppose karo, instead of, let me say, instead of minimum sample split as 400, if you have given as 700, then tree एक ही बार branch होता और रुक जाता. So do you realize one thing, that minimum sample split, the number which you give will definitely have the impact on your model. So if you give a very high number, if minimum sample split is equal to, let me say 800, then tree would have stopped at this point. Tree यहाँ पे आके रुक जाता, बराबर? It would have stopped. What does this mean? This means it is checking only one condition. सिर्फ एक ही condition तो check करता. Am I right? Because every splitting, remember I have said every splitting is nothing but kind of a if and else condition. Check करता है. And while making the decision, you should have checked sufficient number of conditions. Suppose करो तुमने 800 दे दिया and it is splitting and it is stopping only at over here. And the first condition was your credit history equal to 1. It means there is no usage of your education column, income column, property area and whatever, right? वो कुछ और check भी नहीं करना. So the way you give your minimum sample split will have the impact on your final tree, right? So 700 is a very big number, or 800 is a very big number when total number of records are 1000. But 700 and 800 is a very small number when total number of records are, let me say 50,000. Or I say 5 lakh. तो उसके कंपैरिजन में तो काफी छोटा हो गया, right? So minimum sample split will, there is no fixed right or wrong value. It will always depend upon the total base you have. If the base is big, the minimum sample split you can take can be very high also. And if the total base is very less, then you may have to take a very small number also. But whatever number you take, it will definitely have some impact on your model. Okay. As of now, I'm saying, let me say you are checking the minimum sample split at 50, 75, 100, and let me say 150. Okay. Just for an example. So how many values do you have over here? In criteria, it can take 2 values. In depth of the tree, it can take 4 values. And minimum sample spread, it can take 4 values. So answer this question. How many total combinations? How many total combinations are possible? कितने combinations possible हैं? 32. Answer is very simple. 2 into 4 into 4. So 32 combinations of hyperparameter, or you can say 32 different trees, or you can say 32 different models. हर एक tree तो एक model ही है ना. And out of these 32 different trees, one of the tree or 2 of the trees may be the best fit. और हमें पता लगाना है कौन सा बेस्ट है. So how would you do? अगर मैं इसे एक बार एक्सेल ओपन कर लूं, सपोज करो मैं यहाँ पे बोल देता हूँ क्राइटेरिया, डेप्थ ऑफ द ट्री, and minimum sample split. So in criteria, what all things can you take? In criteria, let me say you can take that as your Gini and entropy. Depth of the tree में मैंने कौन कौन से नंबर डाले थे? 5, 6, 7, 8. Minimum sample split में 50, 75 and 120, 150. चलो 150, ठीक है. Now suppose you are doing manually, तो तुम manually में कैसे करोगे? तुम क्या करोगे? एक बार गिनी ले लोगे and you will take depth as a 5, and then you will say 50, 75, 100, 150, ठीक है. Now what you will do? You will change it to 6, and again you will repeat these 4 numbers. Then you will take it 7, and again you will repeat these 4 numbers. Then you will take it as 8, and again you will repeat this 4 numbers. So सिर्फ गिनी के ही कितने हो गए? गिनी के कितने हो गए? 16 हो गए. Now same thing what you will do with your entropy, and again I'll just copy this and put it over here. अब देख रहे हो total number of combination, and all of them are unique. All of them are unique, and each of them is nothing but a tree. So if you are doing manually, then you create one Excel sheet, and साथ में एक और column डालो at least. You put it a column as accuracy. हर एक के लिए accuracy निकालो, and then at the end you compare कि कहाँ पे best आ रहा है. So what will happen? You have to take all this manual effort. Manual effort में कोई problem नहीं है. You have to just change the parameter, but then you have to be very careful that have you used all the combinations. ठीक है. So this is your manual approach. This can, if you want, you can do this also. But what I will do, I will use the technique. कौन सी technique? Hyperparameter tuning. हम इसको use करेंगे. अब बताओ ये Excel देखने का सबको समझ में आ रहा है? Why hyperparameter tuning is needed? So in hyperparameter tuning, what I'll do, I will give the list or the dictionary of the hyperparameters. It will internally build your model 32 times and let you know which combination is the best combination. अब एक काम करो, open your Jupyter notebook जहां पे तुम लोग ने SVM वाला मॉडल बिल्ड किया था ना, और any data set. Don't take that data set, model data set. उस पे मॉडल अच्छा नहीं आ रहा तुम लोग का. Take any data set, whether credit history, CTG, whatever, or SVM. Take any data set and build your one model. Build your decision tree model. and we will do hyperparameter tuning over there. Okay, guys. Open your Jupyter notebook, run your code. In meantime, even I will run my code. Hmm. Hmm. ऐसा क्या? अरे बाप रे। अच्छा, अभी जाते हैं भाई। ये तो तुमने अच्छी न्यूज बता दिया। तुम्हें मेरी कार पता है? बस जाते हैं यार। तुम लोग को बिना बताए चले जाएंगे तो तुम लोग गदर काट दोगे। मैं एक कोड चैट विंडो पर रख रहा हूँ guys, है ना? इन मीन टाइम हैव अ लुक एंड देन आई विल कम एंड एक्सप्लेन, ठीक है? वो बोल रहा है कार को हटा दो, ठीक है? इसको कोड को देखो देखो, आई हैव पेस्टेड ऑन द चैट, try understanding it, and obviously few people will have some challenge. Let's discuss it. क्वेश्चन किसी को वो समझ में आया, कोड किसको नहीं, कोई बात नहीं। ओके, fair enough. सबने सैम्पलिंग तक करा? अगर सैम्पलिंग तक करा तो जस्ट वेट। जस्ट वेट, सैम्पलिंग के बाद सिर्फ वेट करो, थोड़ा सा 2 मिनट का वेट करो। मैक्सिमम डेप्थ हमने कौन कौन सा लिया था? 50, 75 एंड 100, राइट? एंड 150, 150 और नहीं, वो तो मिनिमम सैंपल स्प्लिट था। डेप्थ में क्या 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 लिया था? 5, 6, 7, 8। ओके, फेयर एनफ। ओके, नाउ लेट्स सी गाइस। अब सब लोग जो भी काम कर रहे हो, जस्ट स्टॉप इट and focus over here. So basically what I have done is I have taken that data set where you were building your bank deposit करके data set याद आ रहा है? Portuguese data set, right? So take any data set. I have taken bank deposit data set where we were building our SPM. So tell your sampling, till sampling, no changes. The way you do sampling will still remain the same. कोई change नहीं. Now, what I am doing is I am saying from sklearn.model selection import cross validation. इसको cross validation तो मैं अभी यहाँ पे use नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but I am saying grid search. Remember, I am doing a grid search, not this grid search. So what is the aim? What is the aim? I want to do the find the best parameters. So best parameters would be found if you are doing your grid search. Can I say line number 34 is automatically self-explanatory? जैसे decision tree build करते हैं, no changes. But now my aim is which parameter within that decision tree. Remember, I have taken criteria as Gini entropy, maximum depth. So what I am doing, I am creating one search dictionary. In search dictionary, I am saying criteria will take 2 values, Gini and entropy. Max depth will take 4 criteria, 5, 6, 7, 8. Minimum sample split will take these numbers. Now what I am doing, I am saying grid search CV. What is grid search CV? जो हमने ऊपर already import कर रखा है. Within grid search CV, what am I passing? DT. What is this DT? Decision tree. Decision tree pass किया, and then I am saying parameter grid. What is this parameter grid? It is a parameter. ये देखते हो? Palm grid. Hyperparameter grid equal to search dictionary. And then I run it. So अगर मैं इसको run करता हूँ ना, so you will notice that it will take a huge amount of time. Why? Because it is not building one tree, but it is building 32 trees. At the back end, it is building 32 trees. And then if I say best parameter, so it tells me the best parameter. So best parameter is your Gini, maximum depth is 8, and minimum sample is 50. What was my aim? My aim was to find out of these combination. Remember the Excel sheet? Out of these 32 combination, which combination will give me the best parameter? So it is saying the best is your this thing. Now you get your best parameters. So if you want, you can build your model using something like this. You can say DT equal to decision tree. And then what you can say? You can say criteria is equal to Gini. Either you build your next tree. क्या प्रॉब्लम हो गया? क्राइटेरिया, आई थिंक ये क्राइटेरिया इसमें नहीं आएगा ना. इक्वल टू लगा सकते हैं। बोलो। क्या प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है? सपोज करो हम सिर्फ एक ही पैरामीटर लगाते हैं। Criteria equal to Guinea, and then I can say comma max depth equal to 8, ये भी सही जाएगा। And then I can say minimum sample split equal to 50, ठीक है। And then I say dt dot fit and I pass my this thing, okay, I pass my this thing and I run it, ठीक है। So once you know the best combination, you can build your tree with the best combinations, ठीक है। So if you want, you can do this thing, otherwise इतना सब भी करने की जरूरत नहीं। What you can do is, when you have already built your grid search, now what is the name of your model? Can I say name of my model is nothing but grid? Model का name grid हो गया। I can directly say grid dot predict. So now the predictions would be done based upon your best combination. So let me say you want to do the prediction on your test data, so you can directly get the predictions. If you want to build a fresh model using those parameters, go ahead and build it. Otherwise, you can directly use it, okay? Now these predictions are done based upon criteria equal to Gini, max depth equal to 8 and minimum sample split equal to 50. So after this, let me say you store the result in your sum variable, and then can I say where you build the confusion matrix still remains the same, ठीक है ना, still remains the same. Now compare this grid search methodology with your this methodology. Let me say you are trying to build a Excel sheet with 32 different combinations, so life easy हो जाती है, very much easy, ठीक है। Now please go ahead and build this model, ठीक है, grid search. And similarly, let's say if you want to do your grid search with your SVM, तो grid search अगर हमें SVM पे करना होगा तो हम कैसे करेंगे? एक काम करो, पहले decision tree पे कर लो, then let's go to the SVM. Otherwise you guys will get this. Try coding it and then you will get more clarity. 5 minutes. Tomorrow we are supervised. So supervised के 5 मॉडल में जोड़ कर जिम्मेदारी का क्लास और आगे 5 दिन बनाने की कोशिश करें। 5 एडवांस मॉडल यूट्यूब बना रही है। तुम लोग पिछली मिनट में हो जाती है, ठीक है? कभी कभी तो मैं क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ, लोग ऐसा काम करने में घुस जाते हैं। Is the code clear or you want me to explain it once more? Clear है? It's simple only.
सर फिर से एक बार एक्सप्लेन कर दो।
Which decision tree? No. See. Now this is where the confusion is starting. See, everyone again, please stop. So your question is what to do at line number 54. Now see, you don't have to do anything at line number 54. It was only for explanation. So after doing your best palms, you will get the best parameters. If you want, you can build your tree using the best parameters. Otherwise, you directly say grid.predict. It will do the prediction based upon the best parameters only. अगर तुम्हें मन है फिर भी अगर कस्टमर को शो करना है कि this was the best parameter and I build it separately, then you go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you can just ignore these lines. These were just for explanation purpose. मैं हटा देता हूँ अगर इससे कंफ्यूजन होगा लोग खत्म। Grid dot predict, and in predict what you do, if you want to do prediction on your trained data, do the prediction on your train. If you do on the test, do it on the test. Predict, DICT. Predict. You have time till tomorrow. अगर Tuesday का मन होता है सबका रखने का, तो we can have it. Yeah, we can have it on Tuesday. Range expected at most 3 argument you got for. देखो हो क्या रहा है, अगर तुम रेंज लिखोगे ना तो तुम नंबर्स नहीं डाल सकते हो। रेंज लिखोगे देन 3:5 और 5:5। अगर तुम नंबर्स डाल लो ना, यहाँ पे डायरेक्टली नंबर्स डाल लो ना, देन यू रिमूव द वर्ड रेंज। ठीक है ना, पर मैंने तो रेंज लिखा नहीं है, कहाँ से आ रहा है रेंज वर्ड?
चार्ट पे पेस्ट किया था वो।
नहीं नहीं, देखो कैसा है। सी, डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज गाइस, एवरीवन अगेन हैव अ लुक। सपोज करो इफ आई यूज दिस वर्ड, एक मिनट वापस सब लोग प्लीज यहाँ पे देखो। सपोज आई यूज दिस वर्ड, इफ आई से रेंज, रेंज तो हो सकता है मेरे को एरर आए। ठीक है, बिकॉज रेंज जब हम डालते हैं तो वी गिव द स्टार्टिंग एंड वी गिव द एंडिंग। आ रही बात समझ में? सो अगर मैं यहाँ पे रेंज ऐसा कर देता हूँ, रेंज 50:150। ठीक है, रेंज 50, लेट्स से 150। अब एरर नहीं आएगा। ठीक है ना? सो इफ यू आर यूजिंग द रेंज, डू नॉट गिव द इंटरवल्स, गिव द स्टार्टिंग एंड द एंडिंग पोजीशन। ठीक है, मैं हटा देता हूँ। कंफर्म मैट्रिक्स क्रिएट हो गया? किस किसका हो गया गाइस? डन, दिखाओ। Anyone else super doubt the question? Matrix to कैसे दिया सकता है? Matrix आना सारा अच्छा that will depend upon data model. As of now, my case में क्या प्रॉब्लम
बैंक डिपोजिट
Okay, so I think the people have done it. ठीक है. Let's try to tune hyperparameter in SVM. SVM में कौन कौन सा हाइपर पैरामीटर हो सकते हैं गाइस? कर्नल, हाँ कर्नल गुस्सा हो जाता है अभी. ठीक है, अच्छा सब लोग प्लीज एक सेकंड यहाँ पे देखो. सो फॉर एग्जांपल मैं इस लाइन को यहाँ पे उतार के ये कर लेता. बैटरी Okay. ना सर थोड़ी देर के लिए हम पॉली हटा देते हैं. So what can be our kernels? Our kernels can be many. याद आ रहा है हमने पहले कर्नल्स की हाइपर पैरामीटर ट्यूनिंग करी है मैनुअली. सो कर्नल्स कैन बी, कहाँ गया भाई, ऊपर निकल गया क्या? हाँ, कर्नल इक्वल टू लीनियर पॉली वॉट एवर यहाँ से उड़ाया, यहाँ डाल दिया. कर्नल इक्वल टू और लीनियर पॉली आरबीएफ एंड सिग्मोइड. क्या प्रॉब्लम है सर? No, sorry, my mistake. सर्च डिक्शनरी निकाल लेते हैं. Search dictionary, and in this I'll say kernel. अरे क्या हो रहा है? I'll say kernel equal to these many. Okay, बाकी सारी चीजों का त्याग कर देते हैं. Search dictionary equal to this. ठीक है. फिर उसके बाद हमने क्या किया था? Then I'm saying grid search, grid equal to, I will say SVC BD, and palm grid equal to search grid, and I think this should work. एरर आ रहा है क्या? एरर आ रहा है? एक काम करते हैं, यहाँ से ना पॉली थोड़ी देर के लिए हटा देते हैं, ये शायद इशू क्रिएट कर रहा है. कोई दिक्कत कर रहा हूँ क्या मैं? ग्रिड सर्च एसवीसी बीडी पाम ग्रिड इक्वल टू सर्च डिक्शनरी. अच्छा, ये यहाँ का एस मिसिंग है. मेक सेंस? So basically what I've done, I have created a dictionary where I'm passing three kernels, linear, RBF, sigmoid, and then I'm creating an instance of my SVC and parameter grid equal to search grid. What is search grid? Search grid is the name of a dictionary which I've already created, and then you run your fit function. So now your fit function would be run using your linear kernel also, RBF kernel also, and your sigmoid kernel also. So अब टाइम तो थोड़ा लगने वाला है बिकॉज वो बैकग्राउंड में 3 डिफरेंट मॉडल बिल्ड करेगा. Okay, please go ahead and build it.
Explain to the professor.
So depending upon the data, how big the data is, how many records, it may take some time. So my model is still running. Run हो रहा है अभी भी? Okay. So how do you do your hyperparameter tuning? In Python, you can do using your grid search. And what is the meaning of hyperparameter? ठीक है? सब लोग please hyperparameter tuning के लिए एक example याद रखना जो मैंने दिया है, right? When you are going for any interview. What is? Why do you want to do a grid search? Take an example of your decision tree and explain it to the person. Okay? Without example, you will have some challenges in explaining. हर एक चीज का एक example जरूर याद रखना. The best way to explain. Example याद रखोगे तो तुम्हें थ्योरी ज्यादा याद करनी ही नहीं पड़ेगी. उसी example से थ्योरी याद हो जाएगी. Then guys, can you go ahead? ठीक है. So मेरा शायद system hang कर गया whatever. Actually hang नहीं कर रहा है, but वो पीछे में run हो रहा है. ठीक है, because I think when you are running your linear model, it was already taking huge amount of time. Now, see basically before we move ahead or before I announce break whatever, दो चीजें मैं और discuss करना चाहता हूँ, which are not connected to your hyperparameter tuning. One is your overfitting एंड अगर ओवर फिटिंग की बात कर रहे हैं तो अंडर फिटिंग आ ही जानी चाहिए. सो एज अ कंसेप्ट व्हाट इज ओवर फिटिंग एंड अंडर फिटिंग. एंड तुम लोग बचपन से बायस बायस कर रहे हो. सो आई वांट टू डिस्कस व्हाट इज बायस्ड. So there are around 3 to 4 different ways of bias, 3 to 4 different ways in which bias can occur. So overfitting, underfitting समझाने में मुझे लगेगा 20 मिनट, bias को समझाने में लगेगा अगेन 20 मिनट. अब बताओ. और and this is the only thing for today. अब you guys decide ब्रेक के बाद ये डिस्कस करना है या इन कंटिन्यूएशन कर लेना है, फिर लंबा वाला ब्रेक छुट्टी. डिसाइड करो. है नहीं नहीं फिर तो मजा नहीं है.
Link to China.
ब्रेक के बाद अच्छा ठीक है. मैंने एक बात तुम लोग की मान ली ब्रेक के बाद, लेकिन ब्रेक कितनी देर का होगा वो बात तुम लोग मेरी मानोगे. अभी हुआ है 10:15, वैसे तो 10:13 हुआ बट फिर भी मान लो 10:15. ब्रेक ले लो टिल 10:35. 20 मिनट्स 22 मिनट्स का ब्रेक दे रहा हूँ, ठीक है ना. 22 मिनट्स का सब लोग प्लीज वापस आ जाओ, ठीक है. उसके बाद 40 मिनट के बाद वैसे ही क्लास खत्म हो जाएगा, ठीक है. एंड टुमारो वी विल स्टार्ट विद आवर अनसुपरवाइज्ड, ठीक है. चलो कम ऑन क्विकली गो. दौड़ दौड़ के जाओ, चाय पी के जाओ. 10:35 I repeat. Guys, please WhatsApp a message, others will come back. क्या हुआ? क्या कर सकते हैं? Enjoy it. एरर आ रहा है? क्या चाहते, मैं देखूं नहीं देखूं? तुम मिक्स आंसर दे रहे हो, सॉल्व हो गया है, एरर दिया है। एरर आया नहीं के बाद एरर मैसेज पड़ा लास्ट लाइन। इनवैलिड पैरामीटर कर्नल, NAL डाल दिया, कर्नल NEL है। जब भी एरर आएगा ना, हमेशा लास्ट लाइन पढ़ना। देखो चीख चीख के बोल रहा, इनवैलिड पैरामीटर कर्नल। तुमने, आई एम 100% श्योर तुमने NAL डाला है। कहाँ पे डाला है? कर्नल पैरामीटर कहाँ डाला है? ये देखिए, इसको कर दीजिए आप NEL। ठीक है, अब ऐसे एरर धीरे धीरे से हमें खुद से सॉल्व करना है, ठीक है ना? अच्छा ठीक है, सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। बाकी लोग कितनी देर में आ रहे हैं? यार मैंने 35 बोला था, 40 हो गया, मतलब 5 मिनट तो फिर भी एक्स्ट्रा दे ही दिए। चलो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड, बाकी लोग आएंगे तो ज्वाइन करेंगे। अच्छा, नाउ लेट्स डिस्कस। सो नाउ इट इज प्योर थ्योरेटिकल, देयर इज नो कोडिंग एज सच इन्वॉल्व। लेट्स डिस्कस द concept of overfitting and similarly your underfitting. Those who have joined online, guys, am I audible? Please confirm. Online folks, am I audible? Chat पे लिख के बताओ, am I audible? आवाज नहीं है मेरे को।
Yes, sir.
Okay, ठीक है, thanks for confirming. So basically, whether it is overfitting or underfitting, they both are the problem with your model. They both are the problem with your model. Underfitting is a simple problem, you will quickly come to it. Overfitting is a problem which is hard to identify. Model overfit हो जाता है, पता नहीं चलता, और बाद में प्रॉब्लम देता है। Okay, so both of them are problem in your model. Okay, but we will see both of them, overfitting and underfitting. Now what is overfitting? Overfitting is you have created a very complex model. You have created a very complex model which gives very good results. Which gives very good results, or you can say it gives very high accuracy or whatever, very good results or performance on trained data. But poor performance on test data. Poor performance on your test data. So basically in overfitting, try remembering this one line. अगर पूरे sentences याद नहीं रहते, in overfitting, model tries to mimic the data. Model जो है वो data की mimicry कर देता है. Model tries to mimic the data. Mimic का मतलब समझते हो ना इंग्लिश में? Mimicry करना, copy कर लेना, right? जैसे बंदर मिमिक्री कर लेते हैं वैसे ही तो समझ लो. So model tries to mimic the data. Okay. So how do we come to know overfitting? That it gives a very good performance on your trained data, but poor performance on your test data. If this is a scenario, then identifying overfitting is very simple. You can build confusion matrix on train and test, and you can find it out. If the matrix is very good on your train but poor on your test, I can easily say that it's a overfitted model. In linear regression, I can find MAPE both on train and test. If on MAPE is very less on your train data, remember mean absolute percentage error. ये MAPE जितना कम होता है मॉडल उतना अच्छा होता है, इतना याद आ रहा है ना. Let's say you are building your linear regression and on your train data, it is just let's say 5 to 5%. But MAPE on your test data comes out to be let's say 35%. Probably it has overfitted, or 40%, 50%, 70%, whatever. So model is giving very good result on your train, but poor result on your test data. So model has overfitted. It has mimicked the data. Now, basically, now why overfitting is a problem? आजकल मैं जो मॉडल ऑफिस में बना रहा हूँ वो भी ओवरफिटेड ही है, और पिछले 6 महीने से ट्राई हो रहा है कि वो अंडरफिट कुछ प्रॉपर फिट हो जाए, लेकिन हो नहीं रहा. ठीक है, दैट इज डिफरेंट थिंग. जब तुम लोग एनएलपी वगैरह या न्यूरल नेटवर्क कर लोगे तब मैं वो ऑफिस का मॉडल डिस्कस करूंगा कभी. बट ओवरफिटिंग इज अ वेरी बिग प्रॉब्लम. अगर ये प्रॉब्लम आ गया तो इसका सोल्यूशन शायद उतना सिंपल ना भी हो. Sometimes it may be very simple also. But why is overfitting a problem? Overfitting problem क्यों? At least train पे तो अच्छा आ रहा है. Why is overfitting a problem? हम उसे प्रॉब्लम क्यों मान रहे हैं? अच्छा छोड़ो. Suppose करो. So when you are building your model, so in your real time, in your real world, what will happen? If model is approved, you are building a model, and let me say your customer, your business has approved the model. Model has been approved, then you will use this model for future predictions. You will use this model for future prediction. तुम उसे deploy कर दोगे whatever. Suppose करो, let's take an example. Let me say you are building the model to predict price of the house. घर कितने में बिकेगा ये मॉडल तुमने बिल्ड कर दिया. To predict the price of the house, and let's say that model was overfitted. Model is overfitted. Before I explain one more thing, so I'll try to say that model tries to mimic the data. इसको कुछ ऐसे समझो. Suppose करो. Let me say, and लोग ये वाला डायग्राम याद रखेंगे for explanation purpose. Otherwise, you would always struggle to explain the overfitting if possible. Let me say these are your points. ठीक है ना? These are your original point. Linear regression का diagram याद आ रहा है? याद आ रहा है? अपने mind में recall करो. याद आता है? If these are the points, then can I say that this black line probably serves my purpose? Serves my purpose. But let me say another person has built a model something like this. So basically there are two models. There are two models. One is your linear and another is your some polynomial equation. Some polynomial equation, which is marked in your red color. And when you are building the model would have been obviously built on your train data. Model to train पे build करते हैं, ठीक है? Or let me say you have built on your entire data. So now, if you compare these two models, do you notice if I use the red model, then errors are almost zero. Errors zero होंगे, right? Because the line is passing through each and every point. And if line is passing through each and every point, then actual and predicted values would be same. In the red model, the errors would almost be zero. But if you are using the black line, your regression line, then do you notice the errors would be there? Black points के लिए errors कितना होगा? So for example, point number A, the error would be this much. For point number B, the error would be this much because predicted values would always be on the regression line. So on this trained data, black would always be having, it would be having errors. On this trained data, do you notice the red curve is much better than linear regression. Linear regression, which I am denoting it in your black line. Both प्यारे results are. But do you notice this red line is nothing but mimicking the data. जहां जहां point है उसको cover कर लिया, mimic कर रहा है. It is mimicking the data. Now, if it is mimicking the data, and suppose you are using this red line for your prediction, and later on some new point comes, when you have deployed this model, you are using this, a new point comes, which is something like this. Do you notice for this point, the black line will still give good result, but the red line will give the result which are very far away from your actual point. ठीक है, सपोज करो एक न्यू पॉइंट यहाँ पे आ जाता है और यहाँ पे आ जाता है और यहाँ पे आ जाता है, कहीं पे भी आता है. For all these new points, the black line would still be doing the good result, but your red line would be giving horrible results. So basically, is this point getting clear that you have mimicked the data? तुमने डेटा को मिमिक कर लिया, ठीक है, जस्ट कॉपी कर लिया और करना चालू कर दिया. Now, so can I say that this red curve, this red line is a very complex model? Complex इसलिए बोल रहा हूं because it is not a straight line, it is some high degree polynomial. And remember, if it is a high degree polynomial, then slope would not be fixed. At every point, the slope will keep on changing. ये हमने पहले discuss किया, right? Now, if it is a polynomial, then equation may be something like this. Y is equal to, let me say, beta naught plus something m x power, let me say n, m1 x power n plus m2 x2 power n2, something like this. It would be linear to nahi hai, it would be having some high degree polynomial. Or if I am taking a simple equation, y is equal to mx plus c, over here it would be y is equal to m x power something, m x power something plus c. Suppose करो हमने एक ऐसी इक्वेशन बना ली, y is equal to m x 3 power 0.5. So do you notice whenever x will change by 1 unit, the impact on y would not be limited to your m, but it would be 3 power 0.5. So do you guys notice a slight change in x will result in a very large change in your y? तुम x को थोड़ा सा चेंज करोगे तो y में बहुत हेवी चेंजेस आएंगे. So what will this mean? This means your model is unstable. A small changes in x can lead to a very large changes in your prediction. और ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? Because model is overfitted. And suppose you have used this model. इस वीडियो को, इस सेशन को लोग वापस घर पे जाके सुनेंगे. Suppose if you have used this model for your prediction and you are trying to predict the price of the house. So price of the house can depend upon number of parameters. It can depend upon your area. It can depend upon your location. It can depend upon your amenities or whatever. ठीक है? It can depend upon the income of the people. अगर लोगों की income ज़्यादा है तो people may be trying to buy a big house or whatever, right? So all these are your x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. Okay. Now, let me say you have deployed the model. Today is what day? Today is, let's say, 12th August. 12th August 2022. On this date, model was built, model was approved, and you started using the model. Let me say by the time Diwali came, let me say 30th of October. So almost 3 months down the line. 3 months down the line, do you notice that preference of the people will change? Maybe the income of the people might have changed. Maybe the people, the amenities which people are looking, their choices might have changed. 3 महीने 4 महीने में कुछ तो changes हो सकता है. Or let me say the interest rate have changed. So if interest rates are changing, then based on, if interest rates are increasing, then people maybe try to buy a house which is of less cost or whatever. So with the time, will people notice? Do people agree that X variables will change? X variables to change करेंगे, right? And if model is overfitted, then a small change in X will result in large change in Y. Correct? Because Y is a function of X, and since your model is overfitted, a small change in X will result in large change in your Y. So the model which was working good in August and in September may start to give big errors in your October में आते आते वो मॉडल बड़े errors देना चालू कर देगा. So now what would you do? You have to again retrain your model, and retraining of model will come with some cost. किसी इंसान को तो बैठाओगे ट्रेन करने के लिए. That training cost will come. So if model is overfitted, please note down one line. If model is overfitted, a small change in X may result in large change in your Y. If model is overfitted, a small change in X may result in large change in your Y. Which means model will need frequent retraining. Model will need frequent retraining. And retraining will involve time and cost. Retraining will involve time and cost. Get the recording from Utkarsha and please see this part of the recording, the theoretical recording. इतना सबको समझ में आ रहा है? What is overfitting? Overfitting means you are mimicking the data, and overfitted models are normally a complex model. ठीक है? So normally overfitted model, एक line और note down करो. Overfitted model will have high variance. Will have high variance. ये चीज समझ में आ रही है ना सबको? Variance is nothing but your square of standard deviation. Standard deviation is mapped to your randomness. Randomness बहुत ज्यादा हो. Overfitted model will have high variance. Later on, we'll build the model which are overfitted. जब हम रीजन लाजो करेंगे then we will see what is our overfitting. फिर से एक बार overfitting को revise करेंगे and that day I'll expect that people will remember this 15-minute का session. Overfitted model will have high variance. So overfitted model की main problem क्या होगी? Frequent retraining करनी पड़ेगी. जैसे x change करेगा, there would be large change in your y, and large change in y will result in large errors, and you don't want a model which has large errors. So frequent retraining, retuning of the model is needed, and retuning के लिए time and money तो लगेगा. Now, अब इस overfitting को some models, अब एक line note down करो, some models have high tendency to overfit. Some models have high tendency to overfit. उनका नेचर ही ऐसा है कि वो ओवरफिट हो जाते हैं. उसमें से द फर्स्ट वन इज योर डिसीजन ट्री. ये तो माना हुआ मॉडल है ओवरफिटिंग के लिए. सेकंड वन इज रैंडम फॉरेस्ट. एक और मॉडल है जो भी कई बार ओवरफिट हो जाता है, लीनियर रिग्रेशन. लीनियर रिग्रेशन की वैसे दो मेथोडोलॉजीज हैं which can reduce the overfitting. We will discuss it, let me say, after 5 to 6 classes. Decision tree, random forest, linear regression, these models have tendency to overfit. इनका inherent nature ये है, overfitting का nature है. Now, how DTs get overfitted? DT overfit क्यों हो जाता है? Can I have a simple answer to this? Already discussed किया है हमने, maybe without using the overfitting word. Yes, perfectly right answer. Good one. So let me draw two trees in front of you. And then let me say it just grows on and on and on and on. Compare this tree with this tree. Compare tree A with tree B. Which tree do you think has tendency to overfit? Tree A, because again I'm saying every split is nothing but a condition. Every split is nothing but a condition. So basically in tree A, you are trying to check unnecessary condition while doing the prediction. So model will become very complex. Remember, overfitted model are very complex model. बहुत ज़्यादा conditions check करो, then also it is a kind of overfitting. So probably tree, if you compare A and B, A may have tendency to overfit. ये overfit की tendency हो सकती है उसकी. A may have tendency to overfit. इतना सबको समझ में आ रहा है? Now, if tree can overfit, so how can you avoid overfitting? ये भी एक question पूछा जा सकता है. How can you avoid overfitting in decision tree? By controlling your max depth. अगर तुम max depth equal to 5 दे दोगे तो 5 से ज्यादा तो हो जाएगा ही नहीं. So you can control overfitting in decision tree by controlling your maximum depth. Any another way? Minimum sample split. Minimum sample split also can control the depth of the tree. Remember, सुबह हमने देखा. Minimum sample split can also control your depth of the tree. Maximum depth can also control your depth of the tree. So if you think your tree is getting overfitted, how can you avoid your overfitting? By controlling these two parameters. And these two parameters are also working in your random forest. In random forest, the first thing which you can control is your number of trees. Suppose you have given number of trees as 1000 compared to a scenario where you have given only 400, then 1000 is likely to overfit. Unnecessary number of trees, unnecessary number of conditions. So please make a note, in random forest, you can control three things: number of trees, maximum depth and minimum sample split. In decision tree, max depth and minimum sample split. रही बात लीनियर की, उसके लिए अभी थोड़ा वेट करो, वी विल सी. तो लीनियर के लिए मैं 2 वर्ड लिख देता हूँ, जिनको चाहिए वो खुद से एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं if they want, otherwise we will discuss. So in linear regression there are 2 ways in which you can avoid overfitting. One is your ridge, another is your lazo. इसका वैसे मैंने 2 सिंपल वीडियोस डाले हैं, चाहना तो कोई देख सकता है on your own. But we will discuss ridge and lazo when we reach there. Guys, is everything clear? कोई प्रॉब्लम? अगर ये सी डोंट बी मच बॉदर्ड अबाउट रीजन लॉस, इसको हटा दो. ये हम इन डेप्थ डिस्कस करेंगे. आई थिंक प्रॉब्ली आई टेक अ 4 आवर सेशन फॉर रीजन लॉस. ठीक है, अभी मैंने सी ये 2 वर्ड इंट्रोड्यूस किया. दीस आर द टेक्निक्स टू ओवरकम द ओवरफिटिंग इन योर लीनियर रिग्रेशन. ठीक है, डोंट पुट मच एनर्जी एंड टाइम ओवर देयर. ठीक है, फिर भी अगर मैंने वर्ड से इसलिए दे दिए, जिसको खुद से पढ़ने का मन है तो पढ़ सकता है. ठीक है, so after completing our unsupervised, again we will come back to our supervised and we will see what is the ridge, what is the. ठीक है, now let's discuss about underfitting. Underfitting is very simple. What is underfitting? Underfitting, पहली चीज तो याद रखो, underfitting is opposite of your overfitting. Underfitting is opposite of your overfitting. So again, underfitting is a problem, but this problem is very evident. You can just see. So underfitting model does not gives good performance. Model does not give good performance neither on train nor on test. ना train पे अच्छा है, ना test पे अच्छा है. Neither on train, nor on test. Okay. So accuracy may be less, MAP may be less, whatever, R square may be less, whatever. So R square is less, MAP is high, accuracy is less, precision, TTR, all those things. Okay. So basically in underfitting, sometimes what happens to avoid overfitting? To avoid overfitting, people build underfitted model. People build underfitted model. Underfit model हो जाता है. I don't want it to be an overfitted model. So what did I do? I tried to control the hyperparameters and I built the underfitted model. So in underfitted model does not captures the nature of the data. Nature of the data. And it has high bias and low variance. High bias and low variance. Variance less होता है, but bias, highly biased model है. Example. इसको एग्जाम्पल से याद रखो. decision tree with very less branches. Suppose karo you have built your tree something like this. Probably it is underfitted only. ठीक है ना? Probably it is underfitted. Suppose you had 10,000 records. You had 10,000 records and you are saying depth as 2. So model underfit हो जाएगा ना? So it should have checked sufficient number of condition, but it is checking only 3 to 4 condition and then it is trying to do the prediction. So यहाँ पे ऐसा होना चाहिए था कि that your tree should have been something like this. Your tree should have been something like this. कुछ ऐसा ट्री होना चाहिए था. It should stop over here. So probably this was okay, but this is underfitted. Another example, you are building the random forest and you say number of decision trees my random forest should use is only 10. Again, the chances is that it will get underfitted. 100 trees की जरूरत थी, तुमने सिर्फ 10 use करे. So again, it will get underfitted. So basically, you are not capturing the actual nature of the data. जितना कॉम्प्लेक्स होना चाहिए था उससे भी सिंपल तुमने बना दिया. It's very simple model and not giving good result. Overfitting, highly complex model, very sensitive to changes in your X. So underfitting problem, underfitting normally इतना बड़ा problem नहीं, because underfitting तुरंत पता चल जाएगा, सामने से पता चल जाएगा. Overfitting छुप के रहेगा, शायद जल्दी पता ना चले, बाद में पता चलेगा. Then please remember the concept and also prepare few lines if you can speak on overfitting and underfitting. I'll highly recommend, please watch this 15-20 minute session after the break, okay? After the recording, and once you get the recording. अब आ जाओ एक नए concept पे आ जाओ. Screen window दिखता है? Let's talk about bias, and this is the last topic for today, and then probably we'll end the session. Bias. So from the time I have started building the model, people have been using this word bias. क्या होता है bias? When your results are inclined towards one column, one class as in Y class. Suppose Y is taking 2, 0 and 1, so it is giving better results for 1 and not so good result for 0 or vice versa. Okay. But ऐसा क्यों होता है? So you can say that data is imbalanced, इसलिए हो रहा है. But क्या bias से उतना ही होता है? तुम लोग का thought इस time bias है. तुम लोग को लग रहा है bias से वही होता है. नहीं. अच्छा, first of all, tell me, are data science model biased? Suppose karo there is no class imbalance and model is giving good result for Y, for 0 also and 1 also. क्या तभी भी bias हो सकता है? क्या तभी bias हो सकता है? Suppose karo there is no class imbalance. Can model be still be biased? ये तो मशीन है, ये क्यों biased होगी? अच्छा, bias का मीनिंग क्या होता है? इंग्लिश मीनिंग बताओ. What is the English meaning? Partiality, ठीक है. Partiality, okay. और कुछ होता है? कैसे? Partiality. Partiality कौन करता है? पार्शियलिटी कौन करता है? सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन है. भूल जाओ डेटा साइंस. मैं ये नहीं पूछ रहा हूँ पार्शियलिटी क्या होती है, मैं पूछता हूँ करता है कौन है. अरे बड़ा सिंपल सा आंसर है, इंसान करता है, ह्यूमन बींग, उसके अलावा तो कोई करता नहीं, ह्यूमन बींग करता है, राइट। और डेटा कौन जनरेट करता है? डेटा जनरेशन गैदरिंग भी तो इंसान ही कर रहा है, और इसी डेटा पे बिल्ड हो रहा है मॉडल। तो वो जो बदमाशी इंसान ने करी वो मॉडल में दिखने वाली है। आ रही बात समझ में? सो अगर कोई कहता है, वैसे कुछ नेता लोग बोल देते हैं कि ये मॉडल है, बायस नहीं होगा, तो आंसर इज रॉन्ग। डेटा साइंस मॉडल आर मोर बायस्ड देन ह्यूमन बीइंग्स। डेटा साइंस मॉडल आर बायस्ड, ये बायस्ड होते हैं। और बायस्ड क्यों होते हैं? बिकॉज समवेयर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर इन्वॉल्व, एंड ह्यूमन बीइंग का बचपन का नेचर ही है कि वो बायस्ड होते हैं। इस क्लास में या इस दुनिया में कोई ऐसा नहीं जो ये कह सके मैं बायस नहीं, कोई है ऐसा? सपोज करो, एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल लेते हैं। हम लोग पाकिस्तान को अपना एनिमी मानते हैं, एज अ इंडियन हम उसे एनिमी मानते हैं। आजकल तो हम लोग चाइना को भी एनिमी मान रहे हैं। तो हमने उसे एनिमी मान लिया, तो अब हम मानते हैं कि उसकी हर एक चीज बेकार है, जबकि ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है। हो सकता है कुछ मामलों में इंडिया से अच्छा हो पाकिस्तान, हो सकता है बहुत से मामलों में चाइना इज बेटर देन इंडिया, लेकिन हमारा दिमाग है बायस। जैसे पाकिस्तान वर्ड सुना कुछ नारे लगाना चालू, या चाइना सुना तो कुछ और चालू। बट देयर कैन बी मेनी सिनेरियोज वेयर दीज कंट्रीज आर बेटर देन इंडिया, बट हमारा माइंड कह रहा है नहीं, बायस है। जैसे यहाँ पे बहुत बैठे हुए बहुत सारे लोगों के माइंड में ये होगा कि दैट फीमेल्स आर बैड कार ड्राइवर, है बहुतों के मन में होगा। लेकिन जरूरी नहीं कि हर फीमेल कार बैड कार ड्राइव करती, कुछ हो सकता है तुमसे अच्छी चलाती है, और कुछ मेल हो सकता है बिल्कुल बंडल चलाते, राइट। पिछले 2 मैच में एक प्लेयर 0 पे आउट हो गया, तुम्हारा माइंड बता रही है 0 पे, तुम्हें नहीं पता इस बार वो प्रिपरेशन करके आया या अलग माइंड सेट से है, तो बायस्ड है। ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर बायस्ड, data collected and generation and parameter tuning, everything is done by your human beings. So model के bias होने का high chances, ठीक है। So first of all एक चीज mind में clear कर लो, that models can be biased and they are definitely biased. इसका एक क्लासिकल एग्जांपल तुम ऐसा भी ले लो जो मैंने पहले भी डिस्कस किया। लेट्स से यू हैव बिल्ड अ मॉडल व्हिच अप्रूव्स योर लोन स्टेटस। याद आ रहा है वो एग्जांपल? Based upon your age, work experience, income, saving, whether you have your own house, whether you have your own car. This model would be biased toward the people who are of higher age, because इनकी age higher होगी, work experience ज़्यादा होगा, income would also be more, saving would also be more. The chances that they have their own house would also be more, and chances that they have their own car would also be more. So probably your model will try to approve the loan of the people who are of हायर एज, और जिसकी नौकरी जस्ट स्टार्ट हुई उसका वो लोन डिक्लाइन करना चालू करेगा। अब तुम कर क्या रहे हो? उस बेचारे जिसकी नौकरी अभी स्टार्ट हुई है उसको लोन देने से मना कर दो। सो यू मे बी लूजिंग बिजनेस आल्सो एंड यू आर फेसिंग प्रॉब्लम इन सोसाइटी। अब उसको घर खरीदना तो क्या करेगा? बैंक तो लोन दे नहीं रहा, तो वो कुछ कहीं और से लोन लेगा, एंड कहीं और से लोन लेगा तो वो ऑब्वियसली हायर इंटरेस्ट रेट पे आएगा। So all these biasness will create a problem. Okay. So till this time, what I said, models can be biased, and I've just taken an example of bias. Now let's talk about different types of bias. वैसे bias बहुत टाइप के हो सकते हैं, लेकिन मैं 4 different ways लेता हूँ, different types of bias. What can be different types of bias? So 4 different types of biases: your sample selection, or the survivorship bias. Simultaneity bias. Simultaneity इसकी स्पेलिंग सही लगी है, simultaneity bias. Fourth one is omitted variable bias. And attenuation bias. Attenuation bias. ये चार word note down कर लो, then let's discuss one by one. Sample selection or the survivorship bias, simultaneity bias, and omitted variable bias and attenuation bias. इसका भी I think मुझे याद नहीं, but शायद मैंने एक वीडियो डाला होगा YouTube पर, देख लेना अगर चाहना तो. अगर डाला होगा तो similar content पे डाल. But later होगा भी. Sample selection or the survivorship bias, simultaneity bias, omitted variable bias, and the attenuation bias. Attenuation bias. Okay. Now let's discuss one by one. It will not take much time. Max 10 minutes. Sample selection or the survivorship bias. Okay, now what is the sample selection bias? अच्छा, तुम लोगों ने कभी ये तो सुना होगा ना कि हिस्ट्री इज रिटन बाय जो जीत जाता है, सुना? जो जीता वही हिस्ट्री लिख देता अपने हिसाब से, अपने आप को हीरो, दूसरे को विलेन बना हुआ. ठीक है, ये कुछ कुछ वैसा ही है. समथिंग सिमिलर इफ नॉट एग्जैक्टली. सपोज इफ आई टेक एन एग्जांपल, लेट मी से ड्यूरिंग दिस कोविड कब से स्टार्ट हुआ? लेट्स से ड्यूरिंग कोविड एरा 2020 इंडिया में 2020 में आया. लेट्स से मार्च 2020 में आ गया, अपना चलते कूदते 2020 में आया. ठीक है, फिर लॉकडाउन वगैरह लगा, and then lockdown went on and probably let's say by October 2020 things were a little bit normal. Okay, and then probably you guys might have noticed that within this time period many shops got closed. Many shops got closed, and the biggest example is your eateries. बहुत सारे छोटे छोटे eateries तो बंद हो गए. Ice cream shops, parlors, many got closed, and on those shops probably some new shops have come up. So COVID started in, let's say, March 2020, and you could see the impact that businesses going down or businesses getting closed or whatever, people losing job, whatever. Now, but you could not do the survey in this period. तुमने survey नहीं किया. A day came when people are almost rid of COVID. Let's say आज के date, आज क्या date है? Let's say August 2022. COVID is still there, but fear of COVID is gone. Businesses are as usual. New businesses have come. Now, in this day, what you are trying to do? You are trying to do a survey. तुम अपना business खोलना चाह रहे हो. You are trying to do a survey to find which type of businesses survived and which got closed. कौन से बच गए, कौन से बंद हो गए? Suppose you want to open a restaurant. Suppose you want to open a restaurant. Not all the restaurants got closed. बहुत से restaurant तो फिर भी बच गए. लोग 8 महीने 9 महीने खाना खाने नहीं गया, but still they survived. But many got closed also. So you want to open a restaurant, and now you want to do a survey that which type of restaurants will survive and which one will close, so that you can plan accordingly. तुम वैसे कुछ planning करना चाह रहे हो. थोड़ी देर के लिए मान लो you have a limited money, infinite amount of money नहीं है तुम्हारे पास, या कोई black का money भी नहीं है, अच्छा पैसा है, ठीक है, सच्चा पैसा है, ठीक है. So you want to find out. So now what will you do? You will start to do the survey. So businesses got closed in 2020. Survey is being done in 2022, 2 years down the line. When today you are going to do the survey, it is very easy. It is very easy to survey or to interview the person or interview those businesses which survived. जो बचे में उनका इंटरव्यू तो लेना बहुत आसान है, but how would you find those who left? उनका डेटा कहाँ से लाओगे? It is very easy to interview or get the data of those people which survived, but very difficult to get data of those businesses which got closed. Suppose करो एक शॉप थी 2 साल पहले बंद हो गई, वहां पे एक नई शॉप आ गई, अब पुराने दुकानदार को कहां से ढूंढोगे? ठीक है, या ढूंढ भी लोगे तो शहर में होगा कि नहीं होगा? How would you contact him? How would you get the data of those businesses which got closed? So now let's say you do the survey on some 100 shops or 100 restaurants. So out of these 100, you get 90 of those who got survived, and you were with very difficulty you could interview only those 10 who did not survive. अब क्या होगा? Your model would be biased towards the survived. You will get to know many scenarios through which you can survive, but you will get very less conditions for the not survive. जो बचा ही नहीं उसको इंटरव्यू करोगे. So this type of thing is known as your survivorship bias or sample selection bias. When you are selecting the sample at the very starting, the bias has entered in your data, and if bias has entered in your data, it would definitely be coming in your form. ठीक है, sample selection और survivorship bias. And this is not just one example. दुनिया भरी पड़ी ऐसे examples है. Suppose करो there is a period, there is a time period where prices of house are going down. ठीक है, and the best example कोई ले सकता है? Prices are going down, and let me say in USA. ये अभी रिसेंटली हुआ है. रिसेंटली मींस कितना साल पहले? 15 साल पहले. तुम लोग शायद तब नौकरी में नहीं करोगे, मैं तो मुझे अच्छे से याद है. ईयर 2007 को कभी तुम लोग गूगल में सर्च करना, 2007 और 8 में एक मेल्टडाउन आया था, एक प्रॉपर रिसेशन आया था जिसको फील करा हम लोगों ने. उसमें क्या हुआ था? रिसेशन की शुरुआत भी कैसे हुई थी वो मैं तुम्हें बताता हूँ. 2008 में आई थिंक सितंबर मंथ में एक बहुत बड़ा बैंक था, बैंक ऑफ अमेरिका मैरी लिंच and Lehman Brothers. So Lehman Brothers, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, BOA, Merrill Lynch, इन दोनों ने बैंक्रप्सी फाइल कर दी थी, दिवालिया हो गए थे. और ये बहुत बड़े बैंक्स हुआ करते थे, मतलब इतने बड़े कि अगर इंडिया के सारे बैंक मिला लो तो भी इसके बराबर नहीं होगा. इन्होंने बैंक्रप्सी फाइल कर दी थी, और उसकी वजह से क्या होता है, एक रिसेशन ट्रिगर हो गया था. उसके बाद फिर इंडिया में भी बहुत कुछ हुआ. इंडिया में एक कंपनी थी सत्यम कंप्यूटर्स, उसने जैन 2009 में, जिसका ओनर है रामलिंग राजू, बाद में जेल में गया था. ठीक है, पहले मैं सत्यम में काम करता था, इसलिए मैं उसे बहुत क्लोजली फॉलो कर रहा था. मैंने ठीक 6 महीने पहले नौकरी छोड़ दी थी, स्विच कर गया था. ठीक है, सो जैन 2009 में उसने बैंक्रप्सी फाइल कर दी थी. ठीक है, एंड देयर वर मेनी कंपनीज व्हिच केप्ट ऑन फाइलिंग बैंक्रप्सी. अब सपोज करो ये बैंक्रप्सी क्यों आई थी? बिकॉज एक क्राइसिस आया था जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं मॉर्गेज क्राइसिस. Mortgage crisis, or you can say subprime crisis. Subprime crisis. Subprime means subprime loan. Subprime means जो prime नहीं है. Subprime means secondary loans, जो loans ज्यादा अच्छे नहीं है. So what was happening? Suppose करो तुमने एक house खरीदा $10,000 में. You bought this house for $10,000 and you had taken a loan of $9,000. And prices were rising like anything. So what you did? Bank was ready to buy your house again. तुमने क्या करा? 10,000 में जो हाउस खरीदा था उसको 15,000 में बेच दिया. And this, so what was this? This was a mortgage. Bank sell this mortgage. उसने एक next buyer को sell कर दिया in 20,000. उसने next को sell कर दिया 25,000, 30,000. घर की कीमत, घर एक ही है. जो घर 10,000 का था, आर्टिफिशियली बढ़ते बढ़ते 50,000 का हो गया. And now a time came जब ये 50,000 वाला The person who has bought the house at 50,000, he has just paid 5,000 and he has taken a loan of 45,000. Now this person, Mr. A, says, boss, I cannot pay the loan anymore. तुम अपना घर वापस ले जाओ. अब बैंक ने अपना घर वापस लिया और बैंक उसको बेचने की कोशिश कर रहा है, बट देयर आर नो बायर्स. और बैंक के पास ऐसे मिस्टर ए एक नहीं थे, लाखों में आ गए. मकान तो था, कोई खरीदने को रेडी नहीं, बिकॉज कॉस्ट वर आर्टिफिशियली हाई. तो क्या हुआ, पूरा एक मेल्टडाउन है. अब नाउ आई एम टेकिंग दिस एग्जांपल, व्हाई? बिकॉज so you can get the data of Mr. A very easily because at that time recession आया. But suppose करो, what about this Mr. X, जिसने सबसे पहले 10,000 में घर खरीदा था? Getting his data is very difficult. वो तो बेच बाच के चला गया. Mr. A और Mr. X के बीच में 5 और buyers and sellers हैं. So getting data of Mr. A, what type of people were not able to pay the loan is very easy. But at the starting, which person bought the house and how was he able to pay the loan? Getting that data is very difficult, right? So again, if you try to build the model, sample selection bias. जो जिंदा बचा ही नहीं, वो अपनी कहानी बताएगा कैसे, करेक्ट? सो तुम लोग कभी घर पे जाना, यूट्यूब देखना, सब प्राइम क्राइसिस को जा स्टडी करना, देखना बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है कैसे कैसे बर्बाद हुआ था. और देखना क्या वैसा कुछ अब तो नहीं आने वाला, कुछ सिग्नल लगते हैं, कभी हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे, ठीक है? देखना क्या अब वैसा तो माहौल बिल्ड नहीं हो रहा है जैसे पहले था, हल्का हल्का बिल्ड होता हुआ दिखता है, ठीक है? सिर्फ उस दिन का वेट करो जिस दिन कोई कंपनी बैंक्रप्सी फाइल करेगी, उस दिन से मार्केट हिल जाएगा. अच्छा, नाउ कम टू योर सिमल्टेनिटी बायस. सिमल्टेनिटी बायस क्या हो सकता है? लेट मी डू देखते हैं फ्रेंड को. अच्छा, simultaneity bias, it has something to do with your simultaneous. Simultaneous का मतलब क्या होता है? Simultaneous means together. Simultaneous equation. अच्छा, एक काम करो, simultaneous का मीनिंग में जा खोज ही लो तुम गूगल पे. एक साथ, हाँ ये सही बताया, एक साथ. Simultaneous equation सुनिए ना, solving simultaneous equation with 2 variable, 3 variable, right? So simultaneous. So normally what do I say whenever you are building the model? After now I am discussing the simultaneity bias. So simultaneity bias, whenever you are building your equation, whenever you are building a model, you say that y is a function of x. यही बोलते हैं ना हम लोग, y is a function of x. In short, I can say that y depends on x, which also means when you change x, y changes. अगर y में कुछ चेंज लाना है तो x को चेंज करना पड़ेगा. y is a function of x, y depends upon x. Okay. In simultaneity bias, y is a function of x, which is okay, no problem. Y is a function of x, but x is also function of y. x y पे डिपेंड कर रहा है और y x पे डिपेंड कर रहा है. अब बताओ क्या होगा? y is a function of x, but x is also function of y. Any examples, guys? एग्जाम्पल रियल लाइफ का लो. रियल लाइफ में क्या लगता है, ऐसा कोई सिनेरियो है? ओके, ओके, बट व्हाट इज योर वाई ओवर हियर? तुम प्रेडिक्ट क्या करना चाह रहे थे? both are dependent, but then which one? तुम्हारा एग्जांपल को मैं बिल्कुल अच्छा मान लूंगा, but what was your target? तुम क्या प्रिडिक्ट करना चाह रहे थे? तुम अपनी रिचनेस प्रिडिक्ट करना चाह रहे थे या फैमिली की रिचनेस? Richness, your richness. But will this always be true? कि जब जब इंसान ज्यादा, जब जब तुम ज्यादा कमाओगे तो फैमिली भी ज्यादा कमाएगी, क्या ये हमेशा ट्रू होगा? जरूरी तो नहीं। कोई एक ऐसा एग्जांपल लो जहां पे ट्रू होता हुआ देखो। तुम एक बढ़ाओगे तो दूसरा भी बढ़ेगा, दूसरा बढ़ाओगे तो पहला वाला भी बढ़ेगा, दोनों एक दूसरे के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है। हाँ?
ऑटोमोबाईल
समझ में आया तुम्हारा एग्जांपल?
टाटा कंपनी आणि its vendors.
क्यों? स्पीड भी तो बीच में। But what were you trying to predict? So अगर तुम टाइम इंक्रीज करोगे तो डिस्टेंस ज्यादा हो जाएगा। Not a very good example. Suppose करो, I know that people have not invested in stock market yet, but stock market सुना तो होगा, शेयर सुना है? Why does a price of a share increases? किसी भी शेयर का दाम बढ़ने क्यों लगता है? In short term. हाँ. So why is the price of the share increasing? Because, can I say, people are buying the share. People are buying the shares. So let's take an example. Let me say the share was at 500 rupees. ये आज का दाम था. Let me say price and today. So people think that price of the share, ये इसके दाम बढ़ने वाले हैं, कुछ नया करने वाली कंपनी. So people started to buy more, and tomorrow this share becomes 550, and again people are buying 580. 4 दिन में 600 हो जाता है. But why are people buying more? अब क्वेश्चन को दूसरा एंगल से सोचो, तुम खरीद क्यों रहे हो? Why are you buying it? Because you are thinking कि it will go up. इसीलिए तो तुम खरीद रहे हो ना. अगर तुम्हें लगता है कि नीचे जाएगा तो नहीं खरीदते. You are buying because you are thinking price will go up, and price are going up because people are buying more. अब समझ में आ रहा है? So buying the share and going of the price, ये दोनों एक दूसरे पर डिपेंडेंट हैं. Since people are buying more, prices are going more, and since prices are going more, people are buying more. So price of the share or price of any commodity, price of the share is dependent upon the volume. Volume means how much shares are being bought, volume of shares traded, and volume is dependent upon your price. अब ये दोनों, now if you are trying to predict the price of the share using your volume of the share, you are entering into a very big problem. अब नुकसान होने ही वाला है. हो सकता है थोड़े दिन फायदा होगा, लेकिन जब होगा तो बहुत हैवी नुकसान होगा. ठीक है? People are buying more because they are thinking prices will rise, and since they are buying more, prices are rising, and again when prices rise, people are buying more. So इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं chasing the trade. तुम उस ट्रेड के पीछे भाग रहे हो, तुम्हें लग रहा है गाड़ी छूट गई है, पकड़ना चाह रहे हो. So in this case, so basically remember it with an example. Y is a function of x but X is also a function of Y. So what are the two things over here? Two things over here are your price and let me share shares bought. And same thing will happen when the share price is going down. Share price are going down because people are selling more. People are selling, so prices are going down. And since prices are going down, people are again selling. इसको कुछ ऐसा समझो. Let me say share price was 1000. Let me say share price was 1000. And you had bought share at 700. तुमने 700 पे खरीदा था 3 months back. So you were sitting at profit of 300, but you did not sell the share because you are thinking it will go more. और ऊपर जाएगा तुम होल्ड करके बैठे रहते. Now what happens? Prices start to come down. Prices start to come down. तो पहले 1000 से it became 950. तुमने दिल पे पत्थर रख दिया, नहीं बेचा, ठीक है. So now your profit has come down to 250. फिर वो और नीचे आया 900. So you thought that it is in short term. अभी वापस ही ऊपर चला जाएगा. It will again go back to 1000. तुमने फिर भी नहीं बेचा. अब वो 850 आया. तुम्हारे हार्ट बीट बढ़ना चालू. तुमने फिर भी कंट्रोल किया. But since market was going down, वो 800 पे आया. अब तुम्हें लगा कि I had bought at 700. Previously I was having profit of 1000. Now at least I should have a profit of 100. अब तुम क्या करते हो? तो you are still at 800. You are still in a profit of 100 rupees. But अब तुम क्या करते हो? You sell your share. You sell your share. Why? Because prices are falling. अब जब तुम सेल करोगे तो उसका फिर से इंपैक्ट आएगा. प्राइसेस और नीचे आने चालू हो जाएंगे. और ऐसा ही होता है मार्केट में. ऐसा ही होता है ना. ठीक है. वैसे मार्केट्स में एक सर्किट लगा होता है. उस सर्किट से नीचे नहीं आने देता. वो 10% या कुछ पे लगा होता है, कुछ पे 5% पे लगा होता है. मुझे को अच्छे से याद है 2009 में एक अपर सर्किट लगा था. किसी को अगर तुम लोग कभी गूगल सर्च करना, एक अपर सर्किट लगा था. और 2009 का मई था, मुझे अच्छे से याद है. नेक्स्ट एक न्यू गवर्नमेंट आई थी, वही अपना यूपी वाली. 2004 से 9 के बाद वापस ये 9 में आ गई थी. तो लोगों को एक्सपेक्टेड नहीं था सेम आई गवर्नमेंट, और सेम गवर्नमेंट नहीं, सेम पॉलिसीज कंटिन्यू होगी. तो मार्केट खुला था 945 पे और 946 पे सर्किट लग गया था. सर्किट मींस मार्केट 10% ऊपर चला गया था. तो उस दिन की ट्रेडिंग बंद हो गई थी. तो उस टाइम मेरे पास कुछ शेयर था जिस पे काफी अच्छा प्रॉफिट आया था, इसलिए मुझे अच्छे से याद है. तो वैसा कोई अगर दिन आता है तो बहुत हैवी प्रॉफिट होगा. और जब नीचे आएगा तभी भी सर्किट लग जाएगा. तो 10% तो नीचे नहीं आने देगा. बट आई होप ये आइडिया लोगों को क्लियर हो रहा है. दैट x is a function of y and y is a function of x. Remember the example, price and your volume. Volume depends upon price and price depends upon your volume. दाम बढ़ इसलिए रहे हैं because लोग खरीद रहे हैं, और लोग खरीद इसलिए रहे हैं क्योंकि उन्हें लगता है दाम और बढ़ेंगे. ठीक है. Can we move toward the next one? Next one is omitted variable bias. This one is simple, not much. So omitted variable bias means some significant variables were not considered or were not taken into consideration while building the model. जो significant variables है तुमने include नहीं किए. You did not include the significant variable. The best way to understand is by this example. Let me say you want to predict the miles per gallon. So miles per gallon can depend upon number of cylinders your car has. It can depend upon your number of gears it has. It can depend upon your fuel type. Let me say you have built using your model using these 3 variables. And then weight of the car was not included. Then weight of the car is a very significant parameter. वेट ज्यादा होगा तो एमपीजी कम हो जाएगा, बट लेट मी से द वेट वाज नॉट यूज्ड, सो व्हाट यू हैव डन, यू हैव डन योर ओमिटेड वेरिएबल बायस। जो इंपॉर्टेंट चीज थी उसको तुमने हटा ही दी, ठीक है। और ये वाला बायस ना इंसान जानबूझ के करता है, एंड गवर्नमेंट्स आर फेमस फॉर इट, ठीक है। सपोज करो उसे अगर ये रिलेशन बिल्ड करनी, व्हाट इज द रिलेशनशिप, व्हाई इज द इनकम पैरिटी कम इन अ पर्टिकुलर स्टेट, सो इट कैन हैव अ वेरी बिग रिलेशन विद योर एजुकेशन लेवल, बट उसने वो एजुकेशन पैरामीटर ही हटा दिया। उसने सिर्फ इतना डाला, इनकम पैरिटी हैज समथिंग टू डू विद योर नंबर ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज, बट नंबर ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज में हैव समथिंग टू डू विद योर एजुकेशन आल्सो, बिकॉज़ इंडस्ट्रीज वहीं भी ज्यादा आएंगे, यहाँ पे एजुकेशन ज्यादा होगी। एजुकेशन पैरामीटर इज गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल, वो नहीं चाहती कि हमारे पता चले कि लोग कम पढ़े लिखे हैं, तो उसने पैरामीटर हटा दिया, ठीक है। ये बदमाशी से होता है, ठीक है, जानबूझ के हटा दी। तो तुम लोग ऐसा मत करना, बट मन करे तो कर लेना, ठीक है। बट आई होप दिस एग्जांपल इज क्लियर, राइट? सो वेट ऑफ द कार वुड हैव बीन सिग्निफिकेंट पैरामीटर, but then you are not using the weight of the car by predicting your MPG. So what you have done, you have omitted a variable which was significant. Omitted variable was. Attenuation bias. In attenuation bias, variables were measured with errors. Variables were measured with errors. So sometimes when you are taking the survey or you are logging the values, the errors may have been problem. So for example, let me say, example, you are trying to analyze, you are trying to do the analysis of heat generated while, let me say, machine is moving. So normally अगर कोई मैकेनिकल इंडस्ट्री का उसको पता होगा, let me say you have a moving part, कुछ दो gears आपस में rub कर रहे हैं, right? This is gear 1, this is your gear 2. So when they rub, there a heat would be generated, and this heat generated would be some proportional to your RPM, rounds per minute. So when you are measuring the RPM, you would be using some instrument, koi tachometer or whatever. So maybe it may be possible that actual RPM is 500, but your instrument is saying it is somewhere around 480. Real time measurement itself is faulty. The gadget, the calibration itself is faulty. अगर तुम लोग ने कभी साइंस के एक्सपेरिमेंट किए होंगे तो पहले हम लोग गैजेट को कैलिब्रेट करते हैं, राइट? We find out our vernier calipers या ऐसे कुछ यूज किया होगा, right? We find out how much error is there, right? So let's say you haven't measured the error properly. So at the heat generated was whatever at 500, but your instrument is saying 480 or 505 or whatever. So the data while measurement itself has error, so model itself would also have the error. So attenuation bias means when variables were measured with your errors. So for example, let's say you are going for a survey and लोग कुछ झूठ का थोड़ा सा कम या ज्यादा बता देते हैं. Again, attenuation bias will start pouring. Is it clear? Try remembering these things. Theoretical here. So whenever you are building a model, next time please think, क्या हमने कोई bias तो नहीं कर दिया? Attenuation bias means when variables are measured with an error. So for example, let me say you are saying, so for example, let me say heat generated. Heat generated was your target variable. So heat generated would be function of your RPM, rounds per minute. So if RPM, you would be measuring your RPM using some instrument. Let's say that instrument was not 100% correct. So when actual RPM was 500, your instrument is saying 400. So what is happening? You are gathering the data which itself has your error. So that is known as your attenuation bias. So variables were measured with your errors. So basically, if you can measure the amount of heat generated, you can also find how much coolant would be needed. कितना coolant जाएगा और किस point के बाद वो मशीन में बंद करनी पड़ेगी. ठीक है, all this. ठीक है guys, so that's it from my side for today. I hope people enjoyed the session. Thank you for joining. And tomorrow when we'll meet, we'll start with our unsupervised.